All right, guys, I don't know how many people are going to jump on because this press conference has already started. But as I just settled down to watch this, I thought, well, I might as well go live and see who else wants to watch it with me. So Rex Heuemann, they are expecting more victims. So I've rewound the presser a couple of minutes. So let's listen.
Let's make sure we have everybody. So, you know, before we start, Newsdays said they were late. I don't know if they're here. Yeah, okay, you made it. All right, good. They are. And there's one other station that was late. And they're here? Okay, so then we don't have to wait. I wasn't going to wait anyway, but, you know, if they step in, we might have to go over a few things. I don't know. All right, when you're ready, you tell me, and I'll tell you I'm ready. Right. Good afternoon, everybody. We're here today because new information has arisen in this case from witnesses who were so far unknown. Those witnesses, of which there are 4, have given us statements, 2 of whom have given us affidavits regarding this case, regarding Rex Heuemann and Shannon Gilbert and Karen Vergata. Before I talk about them, first, I want you to be aware that here stands the commissioner, as you know, with me. And up until now, we have not made it known to the public that we have been working together on this case steadily since the time that I came to know Commissioner Harris a year ago, February. Up until that point, the police department was very resistant to receiving any kind of evidence or information from my office from what I was doing. That all changed significantly when Commissioner Harris stepped in and we began to collaborate. And we've collaborated ever since. That collaboration has had fruit. And that fruit, at least, are the witnesses I'm going to be talking about today, as well as other evidence and information which we have shared together and with the police department, and therefore with the task force. So it is true to say that our cooperation has given rise to more substantial, valuable evidence in the entire case of the Long Island serial killer. So with that in mind, I'm very pleased that Commissioner Harrison has seen fit to open his mind and to do what I'm suggesting has been done, contrary to all those who have come before him. And he's approaching this case in the right way. He's the right man for the job, and he's done his job well. As to the witnesses, as to the evidence, in no particular order of importance, because so much of it is important. I have stood as a beacon as a civilian beacon to the people who are involved in this case to come and talk where they didn't want to approach the police out of fear, out of apprehension, out of in some cases, a natural distaste for the police department because of the work these people were in. So they would then come to me and speak to me, and I would interview them, and we would then cooperate, them, and the police department. And so with that in mind, the first 2 witnesses I'm going to talk about are, both of them are not Suffolk County residents. I should point out that we obtained from these 2 affidavits. Their names will go unmentioned. Their names are blotted out of the affidavits, but the affidavits will be available to you right after the press conference. As to the first one I'll talk about, this is a witness who has every reason to have no bias, no interest in the case whatsoever. She was not a sex worker, is not a sex worker, And instead, back in the 90s, in the 1990s, she was what is known then and now as a swinger. She would have a sex partner, and they would go to certain sex clubs in New York City where they would switch partners with other people of like kind. One of the most important places that they would go was called La Trapeze on West 27th Street in New York, right near Rex Heuermann's office. And this was a notorious place for swapping, for switching partners. Sometimes several hundred people at a time would be involved in this place in its heyday. Its heyday was in the late 90s, right at the time that Karen Vergata is involved in this case. In this situation, this particular woman was dating a police officer from New York City who was in narcotics, a detective, and they would go to these switchy clubs, these swap. Six, I believe. The couple went to La Trapeze, and I think it was on the wall at La Trapeze where an advertisement was placed to go to a house in Massapequa Park for partying, for switching, for swapping. She went with her boyfriend out to Long Island, but before they went, her boyfriend picked up a woman in New York, in the city, who had apparently just gotten out of jail, and she was disheveled and hungry, and she was a sex worker. We don't know the details yet of how he came to know her, but he knew her. And she came in the car with the two of them. They went to Massapequa Park. Before they got there, they stopped at a gas station, and the girl who was with them expressed some apprehension about where they were going and why. That was all wiped out when it was pointed out that he's a police detective, so don't worry, no problem. They ended up going to Rex Heuermann's house. In the house was the wife of Rex Heuermann and Rex Heuermann and the other girl. The other girl who we believe to be Karen Vergata. This girl disappears downstairs at the house. Rex Heuermann disappears. And according to our witness and other witnesses I've talked to, when men are swingers with their partner, very often they switch sexually. They go back and forth between male and female. And so Heuermann leaves the main floor and disappears either into another bedroom or downstairs. It's not clear. And the witness talks to Rex's wife. She doesn't want to have sex like she had expected to occur because our client believes our client is an African-American woman. And Heuermann didn't like that. Ellerup, rather, didn't like that. So there was no sex between them, as was originally planned. Instead, the sex is between Heuermann and the other man. At some point, the witness goes looking for her partner and is kind of upset that he doesn't emerge. He emerges, and finally, they leave, and kind of in a hurry. But when they leave, as they're leaving, the witness points out that she could see in the window, looking out, the girl that had come with them. And she says to her driver, her partner, "What are we doing? Are we taking her?" And the partner says, "Don't worry. They're just playing a game. She stays there. No problem." With that, the girl runs out of the house naked and is running in front of the garage. And now the witness says, "Hey, shouldn't we be taking her? wrong here. And the driver tells her, nah, they're just playing a game. Leave it. And they leave. She never hears about the incident again. She distinctly remembers Heuermann. She also had intercourse with Heuermann that same day. And she kind of buries it, forgets about it. Until on TV, she sees the picture of Karen Vergata. And she recognizes her and said, that's her. And she recognizes Rex Heuermann. And so she comes forward, and I meet her. I interview her at great length. I also had the police department. We arranged for detectives to interview her. And I found her story. I interviewed her for 3 times for a total of 9 hours. And I found her story to be credible. She also mentioned that Rex would go out in the backyard and start a fire at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning in a big barrel that was outside in the back. And she was worried about that too, that it would attract police. Anyway, she seemed credible. She appears to be credible. And she was willing to sign an affidavit to that effect. And that affidavit will be available to everybody. In the details I've just told you, you will find there. The second witness who's come forward. This woman is not a sex worker, never was. She's not a switcher or swapper. She's not involved in any sexual activities whatsoever. She has nothing to gain by coming forward. She's not looking for a book or money or the usual things that you're hearing about out there. None of that. But she came forward because she's very disturbed about what she knows after she also saw Rex Heuermann on television and Shannon Gilbert. And here is her story. She is a banker by day, and at night she worked extra in Suffolk County as a taxi driver to take care of her family. It was a one-parent family. As a taxi driver, she is called from her dispatcher to go to the Sayville Motor Lodge on Sunrise Highway, that infamous place that the commissioner here busted a year ago, and for prostitution and other illegal activities. She's called to go to that place, and that there's a girl awaiting her who's locked in a bathroom and will come out if she flashes her lights and beeps the horn. And she goes there and does that several times. It doesn't work. But then suddenly a giant man who fits the description of Rex Heuermann comes out, and he's covering his face with his arms so he can't be seen. And he runs to a van or an SUV right nearby that's parked right there. She continues to flash her lights and beep her horn, and out comes a girl crying, shaking, very upset, and gets in her car. There they talk for a while, and then eventually they drive to the Ronkonkoma Railroad Station so that this girl can go back in to New York City. This girl was a sex worker who was servicing the big man, and the man had seduced her into coming to Sayville by several times over the telephone, convincing her that he was just a nice man who was going to help and work with her to help her family, her mother, her sisters, and her boyfriend. Shannon has a mother, sisters, and a boyfriend at that time. She had her hair pulled back, and because she often wore wigs. This girl turns out to be Shannon Gilbert. Now, Shannon is lured into doing this particular tryst, and she's given an envelope, or shown an envelope by the man that looked like it was stuffed full of money. And he tells her, there's $1,000 in there. It's for you and your family no matter what happens tonight. She looks in the envelope when he goes to the bathroom, and it's stuffed with paper. And so she panics and realizes something's wrong. So she goes in the bathroom, and he had become very aggressive, very angry. She goes in the bathroom, locks the door, and calls to get a cab. And that's how she comes out. They speak for over an hour. So the driver knows her well and notices that she has a drooping eye, which is characteristic of Shannon, and also a characteristic of her family, by the way, going back for a generation or two. And so she notices that, and it helps her to remember Shannon when she sees her later on. That's the first part of the story. It doesn't end there. This is part two. Several days or weeks later, it's not clear, and this is all occurring in the fall of 2009. This is all occurring. The driver gets another call from the same dispatcher and says that there's a man named Matt who she's to pick up right off of exit 59 in the expressway, and he would be at a bar that was there by, I guess, Ocean Avenue, somewhere over there. She goes there, pulls up on a side street between the bar and a house right next to it, and she sees a girl in a window, and then she sees to the right of her a huge man rising up, coming to the car. He's dressed in camouflage, and he leans in and then jumps in the back seat, sits on the edge and leans over and starts talking to her. And she's watching him very carefully in the mirror. And she recognizes him as the same guy that was at the motel a little while before. And she now knows him to be, she recognizes him from the media as Rex Heuemann. He says to her that he wants her to take him on a long trip into the woods. In other words, he changed the destination she had been told, which caused her immediately to become suspicious. And he was very upset, very angry. And he began to dispute with her when she said, "I'm not going on a long trip anywhere." And with that, he gets extremely angry and threatens to kill her and tells her, "I already want to kill you. Just give me a reason." And he had a gun, a handgun. She says, "I'm not going anywhere at this point." And she turns off the car and she says, "You can have the keys. You can have my money, whatever you want. Just let me go. I'll let you have whatever you want." With that, her dispatcher is on the radio, and he says out loud, "We know, we see you, we hear you, we can tell who you are." And the man panics, gets out of the car. She's then able to drive away. She encounters a police car coming the other way. She believes that the police officer was called by a 911 caller on that issue. Could have been the girl who was in the house right next door from where she was. But comes the police, driving slowly with his lights off. She tells him the story, and the man had on a lanyard with a placard of some kind, as if he were a police officer. And she asked him, "Are you a cop?" And he said, "Yes." She said, "From where?" He said, "Brooklyn." With those facts in mind, she tells the police officer who's driving, "There's one of yours back there, and it looks like he's had a bad day. So you better go see what's what." Words to that effect. She later on hears from her dispatcher that this man, went into the woods and fired off his pistol twice. And she recognizes him very clearly to be Rex Heuemann when she sees him. So she's given us this affidavit as well. There's a pattern that's developing here of Rex Heuemann being somebody who tracks down people and haunts them. And Shannon Gilbert would therefore be no exception. Now, the third witness has not given a statement yet. The third witness contacted me from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And that witness clearly recalls being picked up. She was a street walker. She gets picked up by Rex Heuemann. He in Queens, and he drives, I think, near the big center there in Queens, and he drives her into a park in Flushing, where he makes her keep her head down at all times, commit oral sex, and then He has a pistol in his hand and tells her, get out of the car or I'm going to kill you. And don't do anything except what I tell you to do or I'm going to kill you. So she gets out of the car and he tells her, before she does, he tells her, I want you to pick up another person, another customer. She gets out of the car and immediately pulls up another SUV and a man driving it, an African-American man. And the guy that picks her up is white. And she gets in the other guy's car. And the driver, Rex Heuemann, follows the car. They go. Finally get out of the car because she panics and pulls the wheel because she sees a cop car coming. So the cop sees them go jaggedy off the road and the cop stops them. The cop then goes back, talks to Rex and the other driver who gets out and walks back. The cop comes back and tells her, lady, if you want to make a complaint, you have to go to the precinct, and drives away. That's her story. She also has no reason. She refuses to come forward. She refuses to have herself identified. I know her name. I know her address. I've given it to the police. They're aware of it, and presumably they're investigating it. You see the pattern. There's a pattern of a guy who likes to play kind of sporting games with the sex workers, chases them, haunts them, hunts them. That's what we're looking at here, we believe, anyway. The fourth witness, and I'll finish on that, she comes from another state, and she's contacted me as well. I have very lengthy notes and recordings of what we discussed. She was a sex worker for many years, back in the time when all of these killings were occurring, and she serviced Rex Heuemann. She said that she would service Rex Heuemann over 20 times, and that he was a serial user of sex workers. He would sometimes have them come two at a time to his house, and his wife was home upstairs, and in one instance got very angry at one of the sex workers because the wife believed that the worker had stolen an iron from, for ironing clothes, and had it in the car with the driver. So the driver had to get out. Everybody had to search the car. There was no iron. But the wife knew about it and knew about, obviously, what was going on in order for that to happen. So she says that in her experience with Heuermann, he was never impolite. He was always nice. He was always funny. He treated her well, and there was no violence. But he certainly had contact with Rex constantly for a period of several years. That's as much as I'm able to tell you. There's plenty of other new evidence, which I think it will take too long at this press conference to discuss. There's plenty of new other evidence that's similar in kind and consistent with the kinds of things that I've just described to you. So with that thought, I'm hoping that the police department will continue along with the task force, that they will continue to look into these things, investigate them thoroughly, make the synapses that haven't been made so far, connect them up and connect the dots, as it were. And I think we're getting to where we want to go. Lastly, I am still working on this case. Today, I took Joseph Brewer's deposition, the John for Shannon Gilbert. I just finished it and came here. I'm still actively pursuing this case on my own, as well as cooperating with the police department and the task force. But for people out there who have information and are afraid to come forward to the police, they can talk to me. They can reveal whatever they want. I will reveal it to no one. I reveal these things with their permission, the things that I told you about. But anybody else that still has information, I'm available. My door is open. My phones are open. I can help you. Thank you.
The information presented about Karen Brigada. She's the first known victim of the serial killer. Does this lead you to make Rex Heuemann the prime suspect in her murder in 1996?
I don't want to make Rex Heuemann the prime suspect. I will say this, and I'll share this over and over again. The creation of the task force got us into a good place of being able to identify Rex for 3 of the sex workers that were discovered, and we're looking very good for the 4th one. But we also added 2 more investigators to the task force to take this type of information in and to pursue it, to follow it, to see if this is credible. That's very important, and that's why people don't understand. When I first came into this position, I sat down with John Ray, myself and the members of the task force, to have that conversation about information that he may have, and let's make sure we're putting a dragnet out there regarding any information that's coming to us. That's why I'm going to continue my partnership with John. And if people have a reluctancy to come forward to law enforcement and they want to go to John Ray, then it's important that we take this information and then we follow forward with furthering the investigation. So it's still an ongoing investigation. So I'll leave it at that. But once again, is this, we have the information, we're working it, and we'll see where it leads us down the road.
And you're saying to us earlier, you're going to leave no stone unturned, and the fact that there possibly were affidavits that you can use to possibly find future victims.
Absolutely, and that's a very good question, and that's why I stand here today with John Ray. If people don't want to use our Crime Stoppers hotline, and they feel a lot more comfortable going to John Ray or anybody else, I want to make sure that people understand that we have a job here as law enforcement, as the Suffolk County Police Department, to make sure we investigate every single complaint or interest in this case. Make sure that we look under every single stone to see if there is any connection to Rex Heuermann, or if there is a connection to somebody else that may be involved with the bodies that were discovered on Ocean Parkway.
Commissioner, have you heard about or known about these affidavits before today? What's the time frame?
So we could go about a month and a half, depending on 2 months, depending on each one. For one of the affidavits, I was actually sat down with the person myself. That just shows you my vested interest in it. Listen, this is something that's very important to me. I'm going to continue to grind to make sure anybody that had an interaction with our defendant, Rex Heuermann, is held accountable in this case.
Which witness did you sit down with? Number 1 or number 2?
The delivery cab driver. The taxi cab driver, yeah.
That's the one with Shannon Gilbert.
That's the one with Shannon Gilbert. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
What year was that? 2007 or 9? 2009.
The taxi driver is 2009, the fall of 2009, and she is not absolutely certain of the time frame, but that's where it approximates.
And that's where, Mary, that's where we're going to make sure we're doing our job and trying to nail down time frames, look at radio runs and other things that can help us kind of pinpoint if there is any credibility to these complaints that came forward.
And the commissioner did send 2 detectives to interview the other witness with me, which we did already and at length.
John, or did any of these witnesses explain why they didn't come forward before now?
Yes.
Was it immediately when they saw Rex Heuermann's picture?
Yeah, it was certainly a question we had to ask. We have to ask many questions to test credibility. And I'm not saying that people would necessarily lie, although they might, but that they don't remember or they mix up facts with other situations. We had to test all of those things. And so we had to test that too. And in the one case with the witness with the swapping, it bothered her that they left behind this girl, but she had no other reason to think anything of it until she saw this. She actually broke down. She couldn't believe it when she saw the picture and knew that girl. And that happened there. With the taxi driver, the taxi driver did report it. The taxi driver, back when this originally happened, she talked to her cousin was a cop. She spoke to her family. She spoke to other taxi drivers. She told a lot of people about it. And then she did contact Crime Stoppers and report it and actually talked to them twice, but nobody called her back. So that's long before the commissioner was involved. So she did come forward and she said, well, when it got reactivated, the issue, then she called me. Okay.
Do you find the witness too credible, the person you sat with, Commissioner?
So, you know, the way John explained it, and you got to just kind of take this into context. She doesn't have a stake in the game. She's a cab driver at night, had a profession during the day. You know, she's not necessarily from this neighborhood. So, you know, little things like that kind of piqued my interest. And once again, is this, you know, why did she come forward, and her role and story and everything? It's something that we need to take a closer look at, and we need to make sure we're investigating it. And that's why the task force will stay in place. That's why we added more manpower to it. We're going to continue to work with our law enforcement partners and see if there is any nexus to our defendant, Rex Heuemann. Or once again, like I said before, if there's happens to be another subject out there, we'll look at them as well and see if we can hold them accountable.
And it was reported that you guys were honing in on Valerie Mack and Karen Vergata. In this case, does this add Shannon Gilbert to the list of those two women that you're intensely looking at, you know, their personal lives and whereabouts?
Well, it's all the bodies I've discovered. Let's not rule out Peaches, the Tyler, the Asian male. You know, those were the names that I shared with Tony, but it doesn't mean that we're not continuing to look at all the bodies that were discovered there. But the ones right now that John has, when it comes to Ms. Vergata and when it comes to Ms. Gilbert, are the ones that we're going to take a closer look at and see if they're connected to our defendant.
Any update on the fourth victim, Megan?
Yeah, so I know our district attorney should be doing an announcement real soon, and he'll keep you advised regarding if there's a nexus to the DNA that was recovered, and if there is a match.
So this witness one said that Rex had sex with both the woman, you think that was Vergata, and this other man, a North detective. So knowing that indicates he's probably potentially bisexual. Does that make him more of a leading suspect in an Asian male?
Listen, anything is possible, but once again, this is something that we need to investigate, and I'm sure everybody can understand. There's a judicial process still going on. There's ongoing investigation now that this information has been provided to us. I can only share but so much, but I will reassure everybody here, we are not done with this investigation. I want to make sure that that's very clear.
John, can I ask you, is Shane Burke involved in any of this?
Well, I can't say he is, and I can't say he's not. He certainly reactivated interest in himself by what he did up on Bald Hill, which, by the way, you probably know that it's a notorious place for men picking up other men. I've represented several clients from that hill for that very same thing, and Burke was a street smart cop. He's even noted in his disciplinary record for being extremely streetwise. He would have known what goes on up on that hill, but he also would have known the risk he was taking, and he took it anyway. Burke, the risk taker, emerges, first of all. And second of all, Burke, who is interested in men, emerges, which is very much consistent with what I had said for years, that he was cross-dressing when he was with some of my clients, including Loretta Rickenbacker, and that he had that other interest. Do those other interests matter? Sure they do. If you're going to look at the old police department and see why did Burke get to where he went so easily? Could it be that there's more sexual improprieties on higher levels than we originally thought? It's something that should be looked into. We don't know.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Clarification on the second witness, the cab driver. Are you saying that she contacted police initially when Shannon Gilbert went missing, when her picture emerged in the media, when she first went missing?
No.
Did she only contact you after seeing Rex Heuemann and Shannon Gilbert's face on TV?
Yes, she contacted me after she saw Rex Heuermann on TV and Shannon Gilbert. And then she contacted me, and then I went to see her, and she's not from this state.
Okay, so she claimed that she never saw Shannon Gilbert's face on TV or in the media prior to this year.
That I don't know. I can't say she claimed that. I honestly don't remember whether I asked her that or not. All right, sorry.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks, everybody. We give you the affidavits.
Wow. Wow. All right. For those who want to know who this guy is, okay. So I streamed that from CBS. This is also from CBS. And this dude here, right? And before I say anything else, just let me say, I want this hat. I'm sitting here in a yellow beanie, feeling very underdressed. I want this hat. So, yeah. Anyway, he's called John Ray. He's attorney for the victims. So presumably all the victims. And then the other guy is the Suffolk County Police Commissioner, Rodney Harrison. So, wow. Wow. So Ray's office says it's new information about Rex Heuemann in the killings of Shannon Gilbert and Karen Vergata. But my money is on him. Most probably, I'm gonna predict here that he's done them all. I can't believe, right? I cannot believe, and I have said this before, that there's two serial killers operating using exactly the same location, the same stretch of beach, the same road as a dumping ground. As I've said in previous videos, just because the way that they were found, like the state of their bodies, like some of them like wrapped up, tied up, some of them not, means nothing. Means nothing. Because the older ones are the ones that weren't tied up, and some of them were at various levels of dismemberment. Well, that's all very time consuming, right? To dismember a victim and then just go and dump the body. Well, what's the point, right? And you know, nobody's getting any younger, are they? So, you know, if you do a few and then you don't get caught, nobody comes to your door saying, oh, hold on a minute, Mr. Heuermann, we want to question you in connection with these bodies that we're finding up there on Gilgo Beach. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. So time goes by and he thinks, well, why am I doing all this work afterwards? It's killing my buzz. Because they're on a high, aren't they? And unless you really, you know, that's part of your buzz, like it was with Jeffrey Dahmer, you know, it's all part of the ritual, then dismembering a body is time consuming, it's pretty nasty, it's difficult, transporting them is more difficult. So why bother? If you become so cocksure of yourself that you're not going to get caught, the logic being you haven't been caught and years go by and you're still not caught, well, what's the worry? Why not just dump them? Why not just wrap them in some, I don't know, camouflage tape or something and dump them? Lazy. That's how a lot of people get caught. That's how a lot of serial killers get caught. They get lazy. They start. That's exactly how Israel Keys get caught. And whenever I do anything on serial killers, I always refer back to Israel Keys because he's the exception that's proving this rule. The rule generally is that, you know, there's one MO and there's a particular dumping ground and they tend to stick close to, you know, where they know. Well, Israel Keys wasn't any of that. Israel Keys wasn't any of that. As long as it wasn't kids, as long as it wasn't in the potential earshot or eyeshot of kids, anything was fair game to him. Right? Yes, some of them were sexual, some of them weren't. And he was a meticulous planner. The reason why Israel Keyes got caught was because he got lazy, or he got so compulsive that he couldn't help himself, and he took someone who was local to him. Because they generally say serial killers have a hunting ground, and that hunting ground is within so many miles radius of their house, or where they know best, because they feel more confident there. But it's not necessarily that. Because if you have a serial killer, and thankfully they're few and far between, like Israel Keyes, who is willing to plan a killing 2 years in advance and plan it all 2 years in advance, he goes around the United States finding a good location. The victim's secondary. Who the victim turns out to be is secondary to this great location. The buzz for Israel Keyes was the planning. The buzz for somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer, not really a buzz. I think he did get a buzz, but it was more of a necessity. The compulsion for Jeffrey Dahmer was he wanted to keep his victims with him, because he had this kind of compulsive loneliness that couldn't be healed anywhere else. Very mixed up individual, but that was part of him. That was part of what he did. But somebody who isn't like that, dismembering a body is pretty grimy, right? So I think my prediction is going to be he did them all. I think he is bisexual. I think he did the young man as well. There's also a child there, a very young child. I don't think has been named. I think she's one of the ones who hasn't been named. I dread to think whether that child was killed because she witnessed her mother being killed, or whether she was part of the sex game. Oh, God. You know, come on. Anything's possible at this point. Anything's possible at this point. Yeah, I do believe. I believe the young man was his as well, yeah. And I said that early on. Now, let's talk about swinging, shall we? Right, there's nothing wrong with swinging. Nothing at all wrong with swinging between consensual adults, as long as everybody who is partaking knows full well what they're getting into. They're not persuaded into it under duress. They're not doing it just to please their partner. They're not doing it because they think the partner's going to leave them if they don't. They're doing it under their own free will, their own steam. Everyone's consensual, everyone's an adult, and everyone's taking care of their health. I do not have a problem with Rex's wife being a swinger. None whatsoever. However, that said, we need to talk about this wife, because it seems that maybe she was aware of more than what I originally thought. Because I thought that he killed them, and they were few and far between. I mean, they weren't that few and far between, but because there's quite a few of them. But maybe he'd been killing them since since he was a very, very young man. How old is he now? 50 something. Can't remember how old he is now. But they're maybe fewer and further between than he wanted, because he was doing them when his wife was aware. Is this supposed to be his lawyer? No, fairy goddess. This is the attorney for the victims. John Ray is the attorney for the victims. And then the other guy is Rodney Harrison, who's Suffolk County Police Commissioner. So maybe I'll leave that on the screen so it actually says it right there. So it's not his lawyer, it's the victim's lawyer. So presumably all the victims? I don't know, I guess. So the wife, I thought that it was when she went on vacation or she went overseas or she went to visit friends and Rex was going to have the house to himself, that he could indulge his fascination with sex workers, and sometimes that ended up in killing them. So now, possibly, it isn't that. Possibly it isn't that. Possibly. Look, I'm not saying that that she's involved in the murders. I'm not saying that at all. I think it's most likely that she isn't. But that's just, at this stage, just my opinion. I think that she engaged in the swinging as a voluntary partner, but she also, I guess, turned a blind eye to Rex's dalliances with sex workers. And his wife should recognise the victims so she knows more than what she's letting on. Well, if what Attorney John Ray was saying is true, that one of them went back to, so that would be Karen, was at Rex's house for a swingers party, and the wife didn't want to indulge, well, presumably she did see who was all there at the party. Presumably. So here's my speculation, and this is very much speculation, that she was voluntary in the swinging, but she allowed him, let's say, indulge his fantasies and whatever, maybe stuff that she wasn't into, maybe had an insatiable sex drive and she couldn't be bothered some of the time, or he had certain kinks that she wasn't into, so she would say, fine, if you want to go and, you know, iron out your kinks with these sex workers, I'm okay with that. What she perhaps didn't know was that when she was away, he was killing some of them. That's my speculation. That the murders happened when she was away. So, or, and I'm still thinking that there may be victims of his in other parts of the country as well. And I know that's been investigated because he's got other properties. So he's got a property, has he got a property in New Jersey? There's another one somewhere else as well. Vegas. Is it Vegas? And do you know what? I'm going to have to read up on this case. I've forgotten some of the details of this case. But he had several other properties. So I'm wondering whether there's also going to be victims elsewhere. So it turns out that he's rather more like Israel Keyes than any of us has realised. He's not, because he doesn't have like, after the methods have changed, maybe he doesn't have one preferred method. He has one preferred dumping ground for when he's in Long Island, or is there more than one dumping ground in the Long Island area? All speculation. But could there be other victims elsewhere, similar situation, indulges in sex workers, and then when he's on his own, when he knows he's going to have some time, he kills them and goes and dumps them? But it's always sex workers. So very much like the Yorkshire Ripper, most of his killings were sex workers. Not all, though. Not all. Most of them were. Now, why sex workers? Is it because they're easy prey? Or is it because they are... there's some kind of hatred towards them? There's this repressed kind of hatred that he hates himself for doing it, and he hates them, and he kills them. I would perhaps think maybe not so much with Rex, because if he was indulging in lots of voluntary sex, he's not got an aversion to sex. It's not that he hates sex. I don't know. I have to give that some thought. Why did he do it? We don't know why he did it, Mike. We don't know. We've not heard from him. We've not heard anything from him. This is all speculation on my part. All speculation. We don't know. Can only go off previous cases, draw, extrapolate from previous cases. And he might not be like any other case. It might turn out that he's something completely different, with completely different motives. Can't imagine his motives are going to be too different. Perhaps he just had a kink. One of his kinks was he liked to kill people, and he got a sexual thrill out of killing people, as some people do. And that might be it. There might be nothing more to it than that. He might have a whole range of kinks going on, and one of them, one of many, is that he likes to kill people. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So at the moment, he's charged with 3. There's a 4th that they strongly believe he's connected with, Maureen Maynard Barnes. I'm going to have to get the names up. I know there's Maureen. Let me just... As I said, I'm a bit rusty on this case. Oh, 59. 59-year-old father of 2 is charged with the deaths of Megan Waterman, Melissa Bartholomew, and Amber Lynn Costello. And then there's Maureen. So they've got Valerie Mack. This is from Monday. Yeah, Maureen Brainard Barnes. There we go. But they didn't talk about Valerie. They talked about Shannon. So I think he did them all. I really do. I really do. But I'm going to have to give it some thought about the wife. The wife is very intriguing. I genuinely, really, really thought she knew nothing, and she would have been utterly devastated and just completely in shock that, he's lived this respectable life, is this architect with, considerable, a reputation, and she's just the wife, and she's just completely shocked, not only that he's a murderer, that he's been frequenting sex workers for years. But it seems that perhaps the shock is just about the murders rather than the sex workers. But of course, this is just what the attorney for the victims is saying. Maybe when everything's ironed out and everything's investigated to the nth degree, maybe some of those witnesses won't be as reliable as they originally thought. And that's always the case. Always the case. She wants her guns back. Who, the wife? Who needs that many guns? Yeah, there's a lot of guns in the property, wasn't it? 90 odd weapons, 90 odd guns. I mean, you never know when you might need another 90 guns. Come on. maybe there are guns. Maybe she likes shooting and she goes shooting and she wants her guns back. If they're hers, then maybe she's not going to get them back anytime soon. I bet they really will. I bet they really will be looking to see whether she will face any charges. My guess at this stage is that she won't. She may need to harm herself. Wow. There's been a lot of people at that house, hasn't there? She wants to sell them. Well, I mean, maybe she's no income. Maybe she needs as many possessions as possible because she's no income. I don't know. I'm going to have to really give the wife some serious consideration. But at this moment, my gut feeling, and it's just a gut feeling, just a speculation, is that she knew about everything else except the murders. And that she was okay with everything else except, obviously, the murders. But all this coming out now, I mean, blimey, all this coming out now. Turned a blind eye to his frolicking because she needed his income. Well, maybe there's a lot of people who do that, who turn a blind eye because there's benefits in staying in that relationship. But, I mean, think about this. If she divorced him, she'd have got a decent payout. He's got several properties. He'd have to give her a proportion. She might be able to get alimony. I don't know what the laws are in New York. So she wouldn't be badly off if she divorced him. So because he'd been married a long time. So my guess is that she'd be quite comfortable if she divorced him. So it's my guess that she did turn a blind eye to the sex workers because she knew he had kinks that she didn't want to get involved with. And she was okay with that. Whether it was begrudgingly okay or whether she was, oh, go and have some fun, Rex. You know, see you tomorrow. You know, I don't know. Who knows? Because some people are like that. Maybe she had kinks that he wasn't interested in. Maybe it was a mutual thing. I don't know. Look, listen. This live stream has taken a turn here. This is very YouTube unfriendly. I can guarantee there'll be no monetization at all on this live stream. But as soon as that attorney started talking, I thought, well, bang goes my monetization. But anyway, who knows? But yeah. There's a couple of other things that, whilst I've got you here, should we have a talk about? Just briefly. So, bow out now if you're just here for Rex Heuemann, because I'm going to move on to Natalee Holloway. So, this went down today. She divorced him fast after his arrest. Most people don't. Oh, some do. Some do. They want to, you know, they're totally shocked. They just don't want anything to do with that person. Or it could be she wanted to distance herself so fast because she knew that sooner or later all of her kinky stuff was going to come out. It's been a big news day today. Honestly, it started slow. It started slow. And it's become a big news day. So, Joran van der Sloot, for those who don't know this dude, he, we all kind of knew that this dude did it. So, Natalee Holloway. Yeah, I followed Natalee's case for, what happened in 2005. I think probably, maybe not right from the beginning, but for a long time. It's one of the cases that everybody knew it was him. Everybody knew it was him. And I'm just so pleased that finally her parents have got some answers. Yeah, I didn't realize that, Chris, until today, that Aruba has a 12-year statute of limitations on murder. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? So Natalee Holloway, she was just 18. Is there a picture of Natalee? Why is there no picture of Natalee in this? Here we go. That's Natalee. So Natalee Holloway, she was 18 years old. She just graduated high school. She was going to become a doctor. She wanted to do a medical degree. And she went on vacation to Aruba. So she's from Alabama. She went to Aruba and she never came home. And the suspect for the longest time, there were another couple of other guys as well who have been kind of looked at, but the big guy was him. Dutch national, Joran van der Sloot. And today he has admitted it in court. Admitted it in court. So there was a press conference earlier today, if anybody saw it. Mother spoke. I did a little TikTok, and if I do a TikTok, and I don't do TikToks very often, but I've done 3 TikToks today. I did a little TikTok just with a little clip from her mother saying how pleased she was that finally it was over and she now considers the case solved and she knows he can't be charged with murder, which I think is terribly, terribly sad. But anyway, this happened in 2005, so 18 years ago. So Natalee now probably would have had a thriving medical practice. She would have been 36 years old. She may have had a couple of kids. You know, she had a whole life ahead of her, and it was snuffed out by this selfish individual. So he was in court today for extortion. He's been trying to extort Natalee's mother. So this is his downfall. This is his downfall. So he's in court on federal extortion charges, and he was facing a long time in prison. That's right. She would be 36. She would. He was facing a long time. So he wanted a plea deal. So they said to him, all right, we'll give you 20 years. And oh yeah, there's also, he killed someone else as well. He's also got, he's got charges in Peru. Yeah, $250,000. Yeah. Absolute piece of work. Says he's changed though. Found God and all that. Jesus came to him. Yeah. But yeah, anyway. So to get this plea deal, they said, cops told him that he had to say what happened to Natalee. Yeah, concurrent 20 years. Yeah. Concurrent. Should have been consecutive, but never mind. So to get out of jail well, to spend some life out of jail, he said, yeah. So it was in court today, and he admitted it all. Now, his mother listened to the full confession in real time. I mean, just 18 years. So we're going to read this article. This is from the New York Times. So man has been linked to the 2005 disappearance of Natalee Holloway, described in court documents released on Wednesday, brutally attacking her on a beach in Aruba after she rejected his advances. Same with the other girl as well. That's what he did to the other girl. If they reject him, he kills them. So he passed the polygraph. I only got his word for it, but I don't know. I'd be utterly shocked if someone else did it. I really don't think anyone else did it. This dude's been the suspect for 18 years. So as part of the plea agreement, Mr. Vandersloot pled guilty on Wednesday, U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Alabama in Birmingham to charges that he had tried to extort Miss Holloway's mother, sentenced to 20 years. In court, Judge Anna M. Manasco said, as part of the sentencing decision, Mr. Vandersloot had confessed to killing Miss Holloway and disposing of her remains. Okay, so he'd been serving a 28-year prison sentence in Peru for the 2010 murder of a 21-year-old Peruvian student, Stephanie Flores. He will have to return to Peru to finish his sentence for that crime, as well as another for drug smuggling. So he's not getting out anytime soon, but once he serves this sentence, so 2010, so he's 13 years in, so he's got another 15 years to go, and then whatever he's got for drug smuggling. So by the time that prison sentence has been served, probably the 20 years that he's been given today is going to be up. Because I can't imagine that he'd get any less than 5 years for drug smuggling. I would imagine drug smuggling's got quite a hefty jail term to it, prison term. I don't know. I've never tried. But what his mother, family, brother, etc., have got, at least from this, is a confession. And I think all they wanted at this stage, knowing full well that he couldn't be charged with murder, is the truth about what happened to her. So, in a transcript, Mr. Vandersloot described wanting to be dropped off with Miss Holloway a distance from her hotel so he might get a chance to be with her. He said they began kissing while lying on the beach, but she refused further sexual advances. Oh, gosh. He's such a creep. Can you blame her? When he persisted, she said she needed him in the crotch and he kicked her extremely hard in the face. At that point, she was possibly even dead, but definitely unconscious. He picked up a large cinder block and used it to smash her head in with it completely. He brought her to the ocean's edge in a half pull, half walk, wading in to his knees. I pushed her off into the water and then he walked home. So that's what happened to Natalee Holloway. So she's in the Caribbean Sea somewhere. Every inch of the island of Aruba has been searched. EquiSearch have been out there. EquiSearch Texas have been out there on numerous occasions, helping with the search. They've done everything they could possibly do. everything. So the fact that he says she's in the ocean, I think, yeah, she's got to be in the ocean. There's nowhere else. There's nowhere else she could be at this stage. So you don't believe it, she would wash up? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. No. There are many people who don't wash up because they become fish food very quickly. Sadly. So the Caribbean seas, like warm, lots of fish, lots of carnivorous fish, and if you pushed out, if the tide's going out when you pushed out, you're basically taken out very quickly, and you sink. So as long as you've been eaten to bones, by the time it would be time, if you hadn't been eaten, for you to start to float, then you never come up because the bones don't float. The reason why a drowned victim floats after they've sunk is because of the gaseous buildup as a result of bacterial activity. And if the flesh has gone, then there's no bloat to make you float. So the bones remain at the bottom, and you can be bones within a week in warm water where there's lots of carnivorous fish. So there you go. It tends to be in colder water where you've got a bigger chance of washing up. This has become a very, very dark live stream. The water itself destroys the body, yeah. Well, if you've got a sandy bottom of a sea, the bones just sink into the sand. So they become sand, basically, eventually. The foot video, yeah. Feet washing up. Feet wash up, right, feet. There's some feet washed up in the UK. I did a video over on Michelle Walks about feet. I've done a couple, actually, about feet. One of them's potentially very dodgy because one of the feet was found inland, which is weird. But usually feet wash up. Feet within shoes, let me be clear, feet within shoes, and it's usually feet within training shoes or plimsolls or something with a buoyant type material. And what happens is the rest of the body is eaten by fish, but the fish can't get into the shoe where the feet is, where the feet are, and the feet wash up. And it looks like there's some kind of serial killer who's doing something with the bodies and then dumping feet into the sea. And it's not that. It's that the body's been eaten, the bones are at the bottom, because the bones obviously disconnect when there's no tissues, no cartilage or anything that holds them together. Then the feet remain within the shoe because that's the only piece of flesh that the fish can't get to. And then if that footwear is quite buoyant, like a training shoe, then they are just taken by the current, and then sooner or later they wash up. So there you go. You learn something new every day. So there's nothing weird about feet washing up. It's fish activity. And then certain types of shoe. So, final thing, for those of you in Tennessee, and I really hope this guy gets caught very quickly. Again, I did a TikTok and a YouTube short about this not long before I went live, actually. Sean Williams, remember him? Did a video about him. Thank you, Krista, for the 19.99. Thank you, thank you. You're so kind. You super chatted me the other day as well. So thank you. All right. Yeah, Sean Williams. Did a video about him, I don't know, a couple of months ago. He was somebody that, was it Fred Hill? So connection to the Summer Wells case. Was it Fred Hill? I can't remember now. But he came up, his name came up as a consequence of discussions in the Summer Wells case. And this dude, Sean Williams, he's been charged with child rape, child abuse, pornography. I might as well just say the actual words now because, you know, I'm not monetized anyway on this stream. And he's got federal charges. Anyway, he's escaped. He's escaped from police custody. Again, he's escaped once before. So, Sean Williams is on the run. Is that large? Yes, generally, Jenny. I certainly will be covering the Delphi hearing tomorrow. Yes, I will. I don't care if I have to stay up all night. I'm covering that. Definitely. Slippery Sean. Well, let's just hope he's not as good at hide and seek as Danilo Cavalcante was. Because this dude is dangerous. Right, so he's a businessman. He had a big business, like rich guy in Johnson City, Tennessee. He's also got links with North Carolina. He's also got links in Kentucky. So if you're in those states as well, so Tennessee, North Carolina, Kentucky, let's throw Virginia in there too. If you're in any of those states, please, please watch out. He's dangerous. Cops have said FBI are on it. US Marshals are on it. That call 911 if you believe you've seen him. He's 5'11" and he weighs approximately 170 pounds. There has been some updated photos. He does have a shaved head now. That's the most recent photo that I've seen. So he looks more like that now. But he does wear glasses sometimes. So he doesn't have the bushy hair. He'll look more like that now. So 5'11", approximately 170 pounds. He got away when he was being transported to federal court in Greeneville, Tennessee, this morning around 8:30. And he was last seen on West Summer Street in Greeneville. That's where he escaped from. So Greeneville, if you're in Greene County, if you're in Hawkins County, if you're in Sullivan County, Washington County, or any of the surrounding counties, this dude is in your neck of the woods tonight, right now. Right now. I know that about that, the real sunflower. It will be an adult law. Because if they find child remains, they always say. And there is someone missing in that area who's a male. There's an investigation going on as to how he escaped. Anybody going to bet on a bribe or something going on? I don't know. He's got connections in high places, this dude. It wouldn't surprise me if someone let him go, but who knows? It might just be as slippery as an eel and he's got out of his cuffs. We don't know. Penguin, if they were child's bones, they would have said so. Apparently it's skeletal remains that have been there for quite some time, and they haven't said whether it's a male female, but they always say if they found child remains, they always do. So it was hunters that found the bones. They found a skull, and then when cops got there, they got the dogs out and they found more bones. So I don't know even if they've got a complete skeleton, but it's been sent for forensic testing. Don't they keep him in handcuffs and foot cuffs during transport? You would think so, yes. You would think so. This is federal courts. So who was transporting him? I mean, you guys got some like local PD to do it. Take him to federal court or what? Doesn't take long to become just bones. I know that, but you can tell approximately how old the bones are by the amount of marrow and things like that. And also the colour of them. And whether there's any connective tissue still left on them. Oh, what I don't know about bones, you wouldn't believe. Thank you, Serial Boomer. Thank you for the 9.99. It's very kind. Let's celebrate their third super on a live stream. YouTube's even counting how many super chats people do now. So well done for your third super chat, Serial Boomer. It's very kind of you. I don't know how long YouTube keeps a track for. It's weird. They said it was lower level cops transporting him. Dear me. Is there any more information? There wasn't much information when I did my TikTok. So let's have a look. Sean Williams, Johnson City man accused of sexual assault and child rape, escaped from custody in Greene County. According to a Facebook post from the Greene County Sheriff's Office, yeah, because I've read that before. So Williams escaped from custody during a prisoner transport at 7:30 a.m. Williams was last seen on Summer Street in Greeneville at 8:30. So he escaped at 7:30, was seen in Greeneville, Summer Street at 8:30. Wearing a light tan jail top and bottoms, he's believed to also have a shaved head. He was scheduled to appear in a federal court in Greeneville at 1:45. He was being transported from Laurel County, Kentucky, where he was being held on federal charges. Williams is desperate to escape custody, and he has attempted previously, according to a post made by the Sheriff's Department. Williams attempted to escape from Washington County Detention Center in late July. He was a fugitive from justice for nearly 2 years after Johnson City Police failed to arrest him. In May of 2021, he was discovered and arrested in North Carolina. This is what I mean. He could be in North Carolina right now. He could be anywhere right now. A child rapist escaped, right? Exactly. Thank you. Yes, exactly. Doesn't it sound like a bit weird? A bit weird. He was a fugitive from justice. Then he had a failed attempt. At least he got him back in July. Now he's gone again on his way to federal court. Dear me. He was arrested in North Carolina in April, alongside electronic media storage devices which allegedly contained photographs of numerous criminal acts. In addition to being wanted on a slew of charges such as sexual assault and rape of a child, Williams is at the centre of 2 high-profile lawsuits against the city of Johnson City. Former Special Assistant United States Attorney Kateri Dahl filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Johnson City and the Johnson City Police Department in 2022, alleging they violated her rights by firing her while she pressed for an investigation into Williams after he was accused of raping multiple women. The suit accuses former Johnson City PD Chief Carl Turner of manufacturing false complaints about her job performance as a pretext to fire her because she continued to push for a deeper investigation into Williams. I'm telling you, this dude's had help. A second lawsuit filed in June of this year by several of Williams' alleged victims against the city, which also names former Johnson City Police Chief Carl Turner, Captain Kevin Peters, and Detective Thomas Sparks, as well as 5 unnamed officers as defendants, alleges that from at least 2018 through 2021, the Johnson City PD failed to properly investigate accusations from alleged victims that Sean Williams enlisted the help of 2 individuals to drug and rape women in his apartment in downtown Johnson City. On September 1st, Williams was indicted in Washington County on rape of a child, aggravated child rape, especially aggravated sexual exploitation of a minor, and aggravated sexual battery charges. Oh, he'll probably get 20 years and have to only do 1 anyway, because that seems to be how it goes for people who have friends in high places, mentioning no names Brandon Lawson, who is now out, by the way, on unsupervised parole. Williams is also facing federal charges for attempted escape and production of child pornography. A federal weapons charge against him was dropped by the federal prosecutor to focus its resources on prosecuting the more serious charges. Williams also motioned for a change of venue to either Knoxville or Chattanooga, claiming it would be impossible to seat an unbiased jury because of the publicity surrounding his case. The request was denied. On October 12th, Williams' attorney filed a sealed motion to withdraw. Oh, interesting. There was a hearing for this latest motion in his case that he was scheduled to appear in federal court in Greeneville today. Anyone who sees Williams or knows of his whereabouts is encouraged to report the information to U.S. Marshals by calling 911 or 423-302-8517. In which case, they'll take your call and then they'll not respond to it for another 2 years. Other contact numbers include the Greene County Sheriff's Office. I wouldn't bother with them. I don't know why. I don't know why. 423-798-1800, extension 1508. The U.S. Marshals Greeneville office, 423-638-3391, or the U.S. Marshals Knoxville office, 865-824-3801. Thank you, Anya. I think that's how you say your name. 199. Watch my videos each AM with your coffee. Oh, thank you. Oh, I can like yours. I can't like super stickers, but I can like super chats. Yeah, I would call the US Marshals. If I was in that area and I saw him, I'd call the US Marshals. But that's just me. I don't know. But yeah, a lot going on today. Hopefully they catch him quickly, and he's not good at hide and seek. But something tells me that unless a member of the public spots him and maybe apprehends him, I wouldn't recommend you do this because he's potentially very dangerous. But why is it not letting me click out of that? Oh, there we go. But I don't know. If he turns up on your property and you've got a gun, I mean, I'm just saying, because because the cops seem to be a little bit lax in bringing this dude to justice. Yes, Samantha, yeah. If I was in that area, I would embrace a second. The right to bear arms, absolutely. So much I would. So much I would. I'd be hoping that I found him on my property. Am I minding a baby? No, it's Cassie who is telling me that I've been on live stream far too long and that I need to get off here and probably take her outside, but it's raining, so she won't go out. She'll dither at the doorstep thinking, oh, I need a wee, but I don't want to go out, and then she'll do that for the next hour. Yeah, the last 30 days, I've been crazy in true crime. You're not kidding. There's been so many updates on cases, so many things going on. I'm like doing like updates after updates after updates. There's also the case that I covered this morning, Chelsea Grimm, who's missing from Arizona. She's well, that's a concern. That's a concern. Big concern. It's weird, right? Cassie hates rain. She hates having a bath, but yet she'll go and swim in a creek. She'll jump in a lake. She's happy to swim in a river, get all muddy, and then anything else, though, absolutely hates it. Hates it. You're in Sullivan County, Robin. Well, take her. Because this dude's in your neck of the woods. They hate getting your feet wet. Yeah, but I could understand, right, a dog who just hates water, like hates all water. Like my other 3 dogs. So I had Poppy who died in 2021 and then Bella and Jack who died last year. None of them like water. Like they wouldn't go, they would walk round puddles. They wouldn't go anywhere near a river or a stream. They wouldn't swim. You could give them like 10 sausages and they still wouldn't go into water. They really wouldn't. They hated it. So I could understand when they didn't want to go out in the rain or when they didn't like baths. But when a dog will go in water and swim and will go and sit in a puddle, right, and then they hate a bath, I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, rest of the dog talk. I'm going to go. This has been a very heavy live stream. I'm going to change my title and add in Natalee Holloway and Sean Williams as well. And I'm also going to change my thumbnail so that it's not misleading when people get here and half of the stream we've been talking about other cases. So I'll go and do that now. Hey, keep an eye on Bobcat Barry. Hey, what's Bobcat Barry up to? Oh, I'll go and check out what Bobcat Barry's up to. He'll be up to no good. He'll be up to no good. Oh, Cassie's chewing my chair now because I'm ignoring her. Yeah, I can hear you chewing it. I can hear what you're doing. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, as always, for the donations. And thanks, as always, to the mods. And I will see you tomorrow. I'll definitely be covering the Delphi hearing. So I think that's like 2:30 in the afternoon. So that'll be Eastern, I think. Now, cameras are allowed in, for anybody who hasn't heard. Cameras are allowed into this hearing. However, they're not allowed to live stream. So it's one of them where we can't watch it live, but once they finish the hearing, then they'll release the recording and then it can be played. So I think that's how it's happening. Michael Vaughan's case, yes, I know that there is updates coming on Michael's case. I know that, yeah. I've known that for a few days, and I've been hanging on to make a video or to go live as soon, the moment I hear what those are, whether there's going to be charges to somebody, whether we're going to get a whole new raft of charges on new people. I've been hanging on waiting to talk about Michael. So I can't wait. I'll definitely cover the update, yeah. Definitely cover the update. But at the moment, all we know is that there are going to be updates expected. Updates expected anytime now, because that came out a few days ago. But we don't know what at the moment. Unless that happened today and I've completely missed it. Hold on. Just let me check before I sign off. Just let me check. Let's do last week, this week. So Crimes, Lines and Lies did a stream, charges coming. So we know that. We know something's coming. So that's all we've got so far. 5 days ago. Oh, that's from years ago. So there's nothing new, except we know that there's something expected very soon. So as soon as I hear what that is, I will bring it to you. All right, guys. Yeah. Thanks as always. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, and I'll see you sometime tomorrow. Bye, guys.